Our prayer chaplain, and we're especially blessed to welcome back Felina Bunn with the amazing Dennis Luxon to accompany her for our music. Joining Reverend Christina in the live stream team in the sanctuary this morning. They're here and for their amazing gifts and talent. Started now with prayer. Holy Presence, we know that in God we can never be separate from truth, from infinite intelligence and the source of all good. Gather here in the sacred time to open our hearts and minds to the one power and one presence. We gratefully receive the vibratory energies of divine love and light pouring in and through us, and we affirm we are here this morning for a divine purpose. We trust that purpose is now being fulfilled, for we know we are now in the presence of pure being, immersed in the Holy Spirit of life, love, and wisdom. And so it is. Amen. And now, Felina and Dennis will lead our opening song.
You are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God. You are the face of love. I hold you in my heart. You are my family. You are the face of love. You are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God.
Thank you so much, Felina and Dennis. Unity is a positive, practical approach for spiritual living based on the teachings of Jesus and the power of prayer. We believe there is truth and beauty in every spiritual tradition. We give thanks for the inflow with generous. We also honor the many paths to God. Wherever you are on your journey of faith, please know that you are always welcome here. At Unity on the North Shore, our purpose is to create a safe space where people are empowered to take risks and live their deepest truth. We do this by acting on principles of inclusivity, encouraging creative spiritual exploration, embracing innovative possibilities, collaborating to create community and personal growth, and living truth principles. If this is your first Sunday with us, we want to extend a loving welcome to you. Upon discovering Unity, many of us were surprised to learn that there was a spiritual community that thought and believed the same things that we did. It felt like coming home. We hope your experience this morning is equally powerful and that you'll return. Next up, please join Felina and Dennis as they lead us in this morning's group song.
All good, holy, holy. All good, holy, holy. All in my mind, in my heart, in my soul. Lets me know all is good, holy, holy. All love, holy, holy. my soul lets me know all is love. Holy, holy, all God, all God, all God, holy, holy, all God, holy, holy, all in my mind, in my heart, in my soul, lets me know all is God, holy, holy, all in my mind, in my heart, in my soul, lets me know all is good, holy, holy.
Thank you, Felina and Dennis. So beautiful. So good to see everyone today. Good morning. My name is Diane Testa, and I am your prayer chaplain for this morning. So let us reflect on today's daily word. As I read, allow the words you hear spoken to become a silent and powerful meditation within you. So today's daily word for today is faith. My faith keeps me focused on God. I may not be able to control what happens around me, but I'm always free to choose what happens within me. My perception determines my experience. I begin with faith. I choose to see the vibrant wholeness that is present even during illness. I open my heart and mind to the harmony that I know is possible, even in the midst of an apparent discord. When my needs appear greater than my resources, I remind myself all supply springs forth from the inexhaustible well of divine substance. I am reassured by remembering all situations are temporary and God is greater than every circumstance. Through my faith, I align my thoughts with the divine and believe in the truth that sets me free. If you had faith the size of a mustard seed, then you could say to this mulberry tree, be uprooted and planted in the sea, it would obey you. Luke 17:6. Now I invite you to relax and put your feet on the ground if you'd like, and maybe even close your eyes and take some deep breaths. And just rest in that space for a few deep breaths. And as you're doing that, drop into your heart space and feel the divine within. Feel that presence and come from that space of love. Divine love and divine presence, divine wisdom. As we turn to your presence within, we affirm attunement with spirit. And in this place, we are vehicles for sharing the divine love with others. And as we move through our day, we are aware of the touch of divine presence. It is always there. We're aware of the signs of our good in our lives. We surrender to the possibilities of what God has in store for us. And we rest in the knowing that there is something more than what we know, and we let go of conditions and expectations. We rest in God frequency and trust that healing will occur, prosperity will flow, relationships will be fulfilling, and deep peace is ours. Let's affirm, my life is an expression of the divine, and I find my world filled with good. And so it is. Amen and amen. Thank you, God. And if you'd like, you can put some prayer request in the chat, or stay after and meet with our prayer chaplains for special private one-on-one prayers. Thank you.
For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. We are our grandmother's prayers. We are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of the ancestors. We are the spirit of God. We are mothers of courage, fathers of time, daughters of dust, and sons of great visions. We're sisters of mercy and brothers of love, lovers of life and builders of nations. We're seekers of truth. We are keepers of faith, makers of peace and wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers. We are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of the ancestors. We are the spirit of God. We are mothers of courage and fathers of time. Oh, daughters of dust and sons of great visions. We're sisters of mercy and brothers of love, lovers of life and builders of nations. We're seekers of truth and keepers of faith and makers of peace and wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers. We are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of the ancestors. We are the spirit of God. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are.
Good morning, beautiful people. Oh my gosh, what a beautiful song. I really felt that. And before I even begin, I just want us to take just a minute to breathe that in, to understand and to feel into the energy that we are our grandmother's prayers, our grandfather's dreams, that we are the face of God. And so wherever you are on your journey, as we say, you are welcome here. There is something for you that has called you into this moment, into this service, into this community, into this communion, to be part of something more, to remember who you are and to connect to that divine spirit that tells you that you are the face of God. So no matter where you are today, no matter what you are going through, you are the face of God. So today I'm going to continue our series, right? We've been talking this entire month about what it means to take risks and pursue greatness. And a lot of that is about how do we leave our comfort zones to really be able to embody individual and collective spiritual growth and development. And here at Unity North Shore, the different weeks and themes that we're guiding you through this month are really who we say we are as a community. And so today I'm going to be talking about the idea of collaboration. So what I want to do is first give us a really brief working definition of what I mean when I say collaboration and what we mean here at Unity North Shore. It's about working together to embody and engage truth. So working together to embody, to be the face of God, to be the feet of God, to be the hands of God, to be the mouth of God, to engage and embody truth together. You know, I was sold on this community in large part due to the fact that this community really holds that idea of collaboration as something that is important. And not that it's just this really cute idea that we're doing because it's a la trend, right? Or it's this thing that makes sense because it makes the work easy. But collaboration for us is really foundational about how we engage in truth and how we understand God. And so I was blessed to be brought into this community and share a space, a leadership with Reverend Kirk Condra, who is just the consummate epitome, I think, of the spiritual idea of collaboration. When I came in, it wasn't about ego as the newbie, minister. It was really about how do we work together? How do we bring out truth? How do we engage truth? How can he sort of be the facilitator for me as he collaborated with me in this ministry to be able to allow me to grow? And so that initially, when I started here, was such a huge part of why I invested so deeply and became so in love with this community. But it happens everywhere in what we do. It just happened this week, for example. We were in our staff meeting with Kate Jordan, who is our office coordinator. And so she's amazing. I was telling the story this morning how she actually was a youth and family person at Unity Chicago for many years. And my daughter was raised in youth and family ministry there for so many years with Kate. So it's a beautiful thing. But this week we were talking about, well, what are we going to talk about next month for the June series? And actually, it was Reverend Kurt and I that were having this conversation in front of her virtually. And she just said, what about if we did this? I'm not going to tell you all because you got to wait for the June series. But she came out with this idea, and we sort of just started spitballing and talking and just getting this amazing energy together. And all of a sudden, we were just so excited and jazzed about what we were going to be doing for June. And I think that's part of the spirit that we embody here in this community, that each and every one of you are part of that energy that you share, that we want to continue to augment and to share into the world, because we all are in this together. If the last year and some change has taught us anything, it has certainly taught us that. You know, I grew up with a very keen notion of collaboration, in part because I grew up in a poor community. So many of you know my story. I grew up on the south side of Chicago in a very impoverished neighborhood. And so collaboration was really survival. We collaborated together as a family, as a community, because it meant all of us being able to persevere, endure, thrive, and grow. Even culturally, I come from a background of that. So I think about it, just attended a couple weeks ago with my partner, a quinceañera. So those of you who don't know what that is, that's when a young girl turns 15 years old and she's presented to the community and to her spiritual life as well. And so traditionally in quinceañeras, as well as in weddings in Mexican culture and many Latin American cultures, you have the idea of what is called the padrino or the madrinas system. So that's like the godmother and godfather system. And it's people that step forward as part of the community that say, yes, I'm going to host this particular area. I'm going to give funds and donation for this particular area of the festivities. So they may donate the Bible, or they may donate the dress or the flowers or what have you. And so part of that, as I reflected on that idea, is thinking about how that is such a beautiful thing. You know, oftentimes in our culture, and I mean by American culture, Western culture as a whole, we're raised to think that we have to do it alone. We're raised to think that, you got to pick yourself up by your bootstrap ethos, right? We've got to do it on our own. We've got to stay in pride in our independence. You can't ask for things. You can't show your weakness. You can't show that you need something. And that reminded me of the beauty of collaborating, the beauty of asking, the beauty of engaging other people to be part of this experience, not from a place of lack, but from a place of joy and a place of abundance, to be able to allow people to be part of a sacred journey. So, I kind of have tapped into some of that since I was younger, but I do believe this community is so much part of that. But the idea then is like, why is it that we don't collaborate more as a whole in our culture and in society? Why is it that churches don't collaborate more? Why is it that we don't see more collaboration with nonprofit groups or leaders or countries, nations? And again, a lot of that has to do with this idea of how we've been socialized as human beings to engage the world. And a lot of it has to do with ego. We are so into our egos oftentimes that we want to be able to move forward and say what we want and do what we want and not have to answer to anyone or not have to ask anyone. Maybe there are some of you who've been hurt along the way by trusting other people. And so you think by doing it alone, then that's something that is going to keep you safe. So all of these things factor into the reasons why we as a culture and society don't engage in the concept of collaboration more. It's interesting, I was talking with Reverend Kurt this week about leadership in the church and where we're at and where we're moving. And he said that he was really inspired by the group of women that have started a book club around the divine feminine. And that he really saw how people were engaged. Everyone takes a turn as leader of the group, as facilitator of the group, proposing book ideas, proposing sites to host the meetings now that we're not virtual anymore, those kinds of things. And so he was saying that he was really inspired to hear how that has really engaged other people and how also people may be entered our community through some of these small group ministries like the Divine Feminine Group and are now members. And so what does that mean? And so it didn't occur to me until that moment that I said, oh, we're embodying the Divine Feminine principle as a leadership principle. And so that is what opens up the space. And I really want to hold that. I want to hold that for a second for us to really understand. Again, I'm not talking about male and female. I'm talking about this energetic presence of the divine feminine that is so important in this time that we remember. Collaboration is such a big part of that energy. There are so many studies that look at female leadership, whether it's in the corporate world and Fortune 500 companies or what have you. And one thing research has shown is that women leaders embody much more than men the concept of collaboration. And research has further shown that collaboration is so important in moving productivity or engagement or however you want to phrase it in whatever sort of sector you're in, that it is so important. So there's studies upon studies that show this. So the question I want to ask everyone today, we have that documented proof. Why is it and how is it that we can think through how we can engage that more? This is not a new concept. If we think about the foundations of our unity movement, it was really all about collaboration. Let's think through the first thing that we can identify. We have Charles and Myrtle Fillmore that were co-leaders, co-founders. That in of itself already gives us these beautiful energetic roots to think about, because we have leadership that was collaborative between the two of them from the onset. And if we think about the time in which unity was started, at the turn of the century, women didn't even have the right to vote at that time. Yet there was a deep understanding that there was not just an importance to have more than one face out there, but there was an importance to have that balance, that respect for female leadership. And so we have that energy. And then when we move forward and think about all the other elements that unity brought into its structure, even the idea of prayer teams, we talk about it as prayer chaplains now, but in its inception, it grew leaders in the community to be the face and the feet and the hands and the voice of God as prayer leaders. And so that's part of our DNA spiritually. That's part of our roots that I really want us to connect into and understand that this is who we are as a people. This is who we are as a way to embody truth. This is who we are as a way to embody God in this world by collaborating. The truth of our being is not simply an internal truth. The truth of our being is executed out in the lived community as we build communion and community with others. It's in that time and space where we are actual, we are visible, we are engaging our God by working and being and creating and loving together. That is really where the spiritual rubber hits the road, where you're engaging in that collaboration to be spirit in motion with others. So a truth student, a truth seeker, a unity person, a new thought person, a Christian, a lover of life, of the universal expression, is one who collaborates both inside and outside as a faith community. Let's go a little further to think about our DNA, our roots, right? Jesus. To me, Jesus was the perfect collaborator, the epitome of collaboration. If we think about even just many of the healings that we read about in the New Testament that Jesus performed, and one of my favorite passages I always think about and talk about as sort of the perfect one, is the woman who touched the hem. Because he says to her, by your faith, you are healed. By your faith, you have been made whole. He doesn't take credit for it. He's telling her, we've collaborated on this. You've touched my hem, but you understood that you had that power. I facilitated, I opened a space for you, perhaps. I energetically am here and open, but you came in and you understood. You rode that wave of energy with me to be able to then ascend, descend, however you want to think about it. That was collaboration. Many of the healings and the ways in which he's engaging people in his ministry is about bringing them in, about engaging them, about telling them these things you will do and even greater. And if we look at the fact, he had 12 disciples. He had them going out oftentimes by themselves or in pairs or what have you to be able to do the work. It wasn't just about him. It was about creating this structure, this leadership, this movement of truth to be able to heal people, to have people feel in a way that they hadn't felt in a long time, to remember their divine essence. And so again, we have that. That is what it means to be a New Thought Christian based on the teachings of Jesus. Our master teacher is telling us we are part of this collaborative energy. This is what it means to engage God. So I invite you today to really think about collaboration as sacred. It's not about how we sort of talk about it in our culture, again, as something useful, as something fun, as something necessary in that way that's about production, but to think about it as transformative. How is collaboration in our lives a way that we transform ourselves and others? So I'm going to ask you a couple questions, a series of questions that, just take a moment right now and take a deep breath and just really connect to this energy of collaboration. We are collaborating right now. I am collaborating with you as you hear my voice, as your mind is receiving, as your heart, as your core is receiving this message. We are collaborating this energy here together to understand how we can go inward and outward to be God in this world. So take a deep breath into that knowing and ask yourself, in what ways could collaboration allow me to have greater influence, greater impact as a person, as a human being, as a leader? How can we do that? How can you do that? The other question, do I value the talents and insights of those that I lead? Do you value the insights and talents of those you lead in your home? Do you value the insights and talents of your children? This is one of the key areas that I've learned over the years being a parent. A child is about, not a child anymore, she's about to turn 21, is we have to also understand they are spiritual beings that have come into this iteration of life perfect and whole. And so, yes, we are leading them, but they are also leading us. They are teachers of us. How do we open that space for them to embody their leadership by listening, by collaborating with them? How might you do that as a parent, as a family? How might you do that moving forward in this community, in your home church community? How might you do that in your workspace? Are you a manager? Are you not a manager, but you can still engage in collaboration with people, your coworkers, if your heart is open to it? How might that change your workspace? How might you engage in your community in ways to collaborate and do good in the world? Questions I ask. And within this, I'd like you to think about, what am I doing to communicate value to people? What am I doing in all of these sacred spaces, because they are all sacred spaces? What am I doing? How am I being? What am I saying to communicate to people? You are the face of God. I value you. I see the Christ within you. I know that the Christ exists within you. And we are the same Christ energy working together. And lastly, I'm going to ask you to think about, what might be some of the anti-collaborative ways you are engaging in the world that you need to let go of? What are some of those ways that are anti-collaborative, whether it's phrases or things that you do and say to others or even to yourself that break down that collaborative energy? How can you let that go today? So I'm going to wrap up right here because I gave you a lot of stuff to think about here today. But I want us to really think that, again, collaboration is a sacred act. It is a sacred journey. It is a sacred process that brings us to our truth. So moving out into the world, what does that mean for you? And it's going to look different for everybody. But what does that mean for you? How can you really take this into your mind and into your heart and into your core to be able to be out in the world in this way? I'm going to leave you with a quote from the incomparable and amazing Dolly Parton, who is really known for doing a lot in the truth community, whether we realize it or not, in terms of just this perspective that she brings. I'm a huge country music fan of Dolly Parton. And here's what she once said: if your actions create a legacy that inspires others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, then you are an excellent leader. All of us are leaders. Many of us don't see ourselves as leaders, but every single person, like the song that we started before I began here, the song tells us that the earth sings, the universe sings as we are born to remind us that we are God in expression. So you are all leaders. What can you do in your life to dream more, to inspire more, to be more for yourself that then opens up a space for others? And a quick way that I'll share with you, the difference is not about do it this way. You need to do it this way. It must be done this way. Here's what I think. But it's a way of then switching that and asking others and even yourself, what if we explored it this way? Changes the dynamic so subtly but so profoundly when it goes from an I to a we. It creates an opportunity for better problem solving, for building trust, for building leadership, for building God, building the community of the faithful, building the community of truth, being in our Christ consciousness, in our Christ energy, in our Christ being to be truth. Through collaboration, we uphold God's grand design for us to live and thrive within community. We are in that space. We are God in expression by doing this. And as leaders, genuine collaboration shows others that we have valued their God-given talents. We have valued them as spirit in motion, and that we have that unique insight that each of us is critical to this transformation, this healing, and this success. So we treat others. I want us to move out of this space today knowing and affirming that we can treat those we lead, whatever that means, as valuable creations of the loving Spirit. And so we affirm here together that we are better together than on our own. We affirm here today and we remember who we are as unity, who we are as individuals, but also a collective, and how working together is so crucial as we advance these principles, this energy, and God's work in this world. Let's take that into a time of meditation. Let's open ourselves up even further. I invite you to just close your eyes and relax into the presence. Relax into that energy of eternal being. Take some deep breaths. Allow yourself to relax, whatever that means, and just allow Spirit to lead you. Your mind may have not integrated everything you heard, but your soul, your spirit has. Trust that whatever message was for you has been received. Whatever you are being called to do, you already know. And so we breathe into this collaborative, energetic, virtual space that we create, knowing and affirming that Spirit moves beyond presence physically. Spirit moves beyond time and space. And so we connect here and now to that divine presence and to each other as we affirm collaboration as our sacred journey. We open our spirits up to ask those questions. How can we embody that collaborative effort? How can we embody that collaborative love? How can we embody engaging ourselves and others? How can we forgive? How can we let go to be able to trust that others can lead us, to trust that others can co-lead with us? to trust others to know that we are okay and we are safe? How do we open our hearts in this moment to ask others for what we need? To ask if we are hurting for a word, a prayer, support. We don't have to do it alone. We don't have to suffer alone. We can collaborate with others to lead us, to guide us, to facilitate and be the hands and the feet and the voice of God. And we thank this community for holding that sacred space of collaboration so actively. That energy is moving and flowing within us and among us, and it is bursting out into the world that's creating a new tomorrow, a hope and a faith and a joy and a possibility where people are growing and communities are growing, and there is peace and there is love and there is a knowing that we are all connected, that we matter, and everyone is valued. All lives matter. We thank God for that knowing as we affirm, and so it is, and so it is, and so we let it be. Amen.
Alleluia. 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 Alleluia.
Thank you so much, Reverend Christina and Felina and Dennis, for that very powerful message and beautiful song. So this is the time when we pause to bless the generous tithes and offerings given in support of our center. If you've been part of our community, you know that we are also a tithing ministry. That means that we joyfully, gratefully give 10% of the undesignated gifts we receive to individuals and organizations that magnify and support our work in the world. So far this year, we've given over $8,000 to organizations ranging from Unity World Headquarters and Great Lakes Unity Region to ministers and authors whose work supports our classes and ministries, to local organizations like Interfaith Action in support of its work with our hungry and homeless neighbors, and the Forrest E. Powell Foundation, which empowers promising young Black men and women to pursue their dreams. So as we give thanks for the inflow we generously receive, we also bless the outflow, knowing and affirming that as we give generously, we receive abundantly. Together, we are moving this ministry forward and outward into the world to be a powerful channel for spiritual growth and transformation. So here are 3 simple ways to give. You text the word give to 815-827-6052. That is 815-827-6052. Or you can mail a check to 3434 Central Street, Evanston, Illinois, 60201. And the third way, you can give online at our website, www.unityns.org. So now let us bless our giving and our receiving with our usual offertory blessing. Together, Divine love as me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And so it is. Amen. And to accompany your giving and your processing of your payments online or writing your checks, we have some more wonderful music from Felina and Dennis.
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and for you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue and clouds of white, the bright blessed day and the dark sacred night. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbows, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of people going by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. I hear babies cry, and I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I'll ever know. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Yes, I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
Wow. I just feel like I've been held and uplifted, and I'm a little verklempt. Felina and Dennis, you are incredible. Thank you so much. And thank you, Diane. I misintroduced you at the beginning of the service, so thank you for your service too. All right. In case you missed last month's town hall meeting, we learned the reopening team is preparing for us to reopen in mid-June. We want to give a grateful shout out to those who returned to the center on Saturday, yesterday, to help spruce up and clean everything out. If you are eager to return to an in-person Sunday service, we're on track to open sometime in mid-June. And no worries if you're planning to play it safe a little bit while longer. Our dedicated live stream team is working on how to stream the in-person service so you can continue to participate virtually. Sounds like we're going to make the best of both worlds and leverage that collaboration that Reverend Christina's talking about. I'm going to pause now in the announcements. We've got a surprise pop-up by Reverend Kurt.
Oh my gosh, thanks, Alyssa. My Lord, I have to say, this is the first time that I've experienced the live stream service just kind of as a participant without having to be leading it. And what an amazing team we have. It really is beautiful. So thanks to all who are making this happen. I just wanted to drop in quickly and make sure that everyone is as up to date as possible on what's happening with our Right and Perfect Home project. You'll remember that back in February during our annual meeting, we had a presentation from Cressa Consulting. They're the ones that have been walking us through this. And we learned that it was going to be more than $1 million just to kind of catch up with deferred maintenance. and any of the improvements that we had sought, like accessibility for differently abled people, or reconfiguring space so that it would be more conducive to the programming that we're doing, or just plain sprucing it up so aesthetically it was prettier, was all going to be more money. And you'll remember that the voting members adopted or approved go ahead and listing our property with a real estate agent. So that happened back in February. Now, since then, I want to catch you up, and we've got a little bit more clarity on what the process is going to look like going forward. So I just want to make sure that you have as much information as possible. We have received a couple of proposals. There's a couple of steps to it. And our consultants looked at those proposals and looked at some of the factors behind the folks who are making it and said that they really were not viable proposals. So we did not pursue offers on those. Cressa and Greystone, our consultants, are continuing to market the property. And while they're doing that, we've got a team that's looking at engaging, what do you call it when you hire a lawyer? Hire a lawyer to represent us in negotiations. If we do identify a buyer where it's a real viable, that looks really good, and they have all the backing that's necessary to be able to move through the whole process, then we'll have a lawyer help us with those negotiations. There'll be a little bit of back and forth. Once the final agreement, it'll go to our evaluation team, which is June Lash, our board president. Rose Johnson is serving on that team. Chet Stroiner, longtime member, is serving on that team. John Lindner, another member of our board, and I are sort of looking at that piece of it. And then once that final agreement sort of comes to pass and the evaluator team approves it, it would then move up to the RPH committee, the whole RPH committee that's been working on this for a couple of years now, and to the board for approval. Once that happens, then we'll, within 10 to 14 days, we will what's the word, convene a membership, a special meeting by the membership. So voting members at that point will have the opportunity to vote yay or nay on this proposal that we imagine is going to become forthcoming here. So that's kind of the process. I know that sounds kind of speedy, and that part of it is, but even once we sort of come up with the deal and the congregation has approved it, then things kind of slow down, because then the buyer and the neighborhood and the city all have to do whatever's necessary to get the right permits in place and have all the neighborhood meetings and make sure the city council's on board. So our piece of it will move fairly quickly once we get a viable offer. And then we have plenty of time to really go looking for our next right and perfect home, which I think actually benefits us now, because we don't have a good sense, and neither do a lot of other churches in the same position, of how many people are going to really be back in person, and how many people might be zooming in from around the country, or even just from the comfort of their bedroom with a cup of coffee and a laptop. We don't know what our facility needs are going to be. So this time gives us, this lag gives us a little bit of time to get more clarity about that. And as we get clear about those designs, then Cressa and Greystone will show us properties, and we'll begin to have a clearer picture of what the exact perfect home, right and perfect home will look like. So I just want everybody to kind of know that that's the process. That's kind of where we're at. That's where you'll have opportunities to engage and take part in it. I'm sure there'll be more town hall meetings along the way, but just wanted to kind of update you with where we are in that right and perfect home process for now. That's it. As I say, there'll be town hall meetings and we'll have an opportunity for questions and answers, but didn't really want to do that during in the context of a service. So look for the next right and perfect home, and we'll keep you apprised of what transpires in the meantime. Thank you. Blessings. Listen, back to you.
Thank you, Reverend Kurt. There are two invitations. Reverend Kurt and Christina are asking for your input in developing our Sunday lesson series in June. The theme is spiritual lessons we learned from the pandemic. From fear and grief to injustice and conflict, the past 15 months have challenged and changed us all. So they ask that we prayerfully discern which spiritual principles, practices, or prayers have supported us through the pandemic, and then consider sharing them. You can respond in the chat stream, send an email, give them a call, or post a video or comment on the Facebook page. So just give some thought to the lessons you've gleaned from this pandemic, and together we'll mine our collective insights so we can face the future with stronger faith and a renewed appreciation of life. What a great invitation that is. And the last invitation is to please check the website, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube for more great content to empower you in living your deepest truth. The best way to stay connected is by subscribing to the weekly e-blasts. If you're not already receiving them, subscribe now using the link in the chat stream. And Jan's already put it up there. And now, Felina and Dennis will lead us in the peace song, followed by Diane with the prayer of protection. Take care, everyone.
And let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, a peace that was meant to be, with God as our Father, family all are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my solemn vow, to take each moment and live each moment and move in harmony. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me.
Thank you all so much. Such a beautiful Sunday morning to be with you. And now let's pray with the prayer of protection. Should be on the screen any minute. There we go. The light of God surrounds us. I am light. The love of God enfolds us. I am love. The power of God protects us. I am power. The presence of God watches over us. I am presence. Wherever we are, God is. I am divine. Oh, thank you all so much. I've added a link in the chat. If you'd like to request a personal prayer, you can click on that and go to our website. The prayer team at Unity will pray over that for the next 30 days. And I do believe there's a garden chat. So if you'd like to stay on and join us, please do so. Happy Sunday.
Hey, everybody. Thank you, Diane.
Sure.
That was such a lovely service. Oh my gosh. Well, I'm just like, it was perfect timing for me and my family as far as Christina's idea of collaboration. Yeah. So, and thank you, Alyssa, for stepping in as well. It's not my best suit last night. I'm just not feeling all that well, but I am doing garden chat this morning. So if you want to get started, I'll talk about nutmeg today. What do you think?
Okay.
All right, we will do that. So everyone, as we're doing A through Z this year through the end of the year, and we will continue to do this once the church meets face to face on Mondays, it looks like at 5 o'clock on the Zoom platform. So, you know, sermons will be fresh for everybody, and we can talk about garden chat or talk through garden chat on Mondays at probably 5 o'clock. That has to be approved by the board, but I think we're heading in that direction. So nutmeg is today. What is nutmeg? We see it, we hear about it. This is what it is. It's actually the seed of a type of evergreen plant, and it's a seed that's native to Indonesia. So it comes from the Indonesian tradition. Although you don't usually see it like this, you see it often ground, but you know what? You can grind it yourself. And in this way, this one's already kind of ground. Use a microplane. It's a very simple tool. Just go up and down. See how it's kind of coming out very finely. You don't use a lot. It's peppery, it's strong. It has great medicinal effects, nutmeg. Lowers blood pressure, lowers inflammation, increases digestion, can help you sleep, but only a little, all right? It is not good for your body if you take so much. So just a dusting. What have I done for you today? 2 very easy preparations beyond some really simple things that you can use nutmeg for. So in the Indonesian tradition of coffee, and I've talked about ginger before, you slice a little bit of ginger in coffee and then you dust your coffee with nutmeg. So that's cool. You can add nutmeg onto fresh fruit salad. All right. You can dust nutmeg onto grilled vegetables. Again, just a little bit. What I've created for you today, because nutmeg is used for savory and sweet, is a dressing that's made with nutmeg, a little bit of almond milk, so it's actually gluten-free kind of thing in that way. But you can also add yogurt, a little bit of olive oil. Sarah will send out the recipe. And it's just drizzled over mixed greens and a little bit of almonds. I'm really liking these right now. This is a Trader Joe product called Guara almonds. They have a little bit of olive oil and sea salt, a little bit of rosemary and such. Really tasty, a little saltish, very nice on this kind of fresh green salad.
Wow.
And then on the other side, I've added a little bit of nutmeg into what I've demonstrated before, a clafouti, which is basically a Greek or a French kind of pancake. But I've added some custard in that as well, and a little bit of grated orange on top. That's why you can see a bit of the orange. Again, really simple to do, kind of puffs up in the oven. And then I just grated through that demonstration a little bit of nutmeg on top. So again, you can consider nutmeg as an additive just to dust on top. You can actually add it into baking, but it's really good for you in moderation. All right. And it's got just a nutty, different kind of taste. If you're not familiar with it, I really suggest you try it either in that whole form or grated. Whole form you can find at Spice House. Grated you can find at our local Jewel, Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, all of that. So that's today on nutmeg.
Okay,
Thank you,
Yeah, I
Sharon.
thank you.
So you put it on your coffee every morning if you have coffee
do.
every morning?
I actually do. And thank you for mentioning that, Terry, because another element that people add into coffee, it's also something that's endemic to Indonesia as well as Sri Lanka, is peppercorns. So next week, I'm going to be talking about pepper and white peppercorns and pink and green and black and all of that. So yeah, people actually do a grating of nutmeg and pepper into their coffee. And I've demonstrated before chai, right? And chai also often has ginger and pepper, and you can add nutmeg into your chai as well. And people take that Ayurvedically to sleep, all right? So again, it's hot milk and a little bit of pepper, a little bit of nutmeg, a little bit of ginger. You stir it all together, you heat it up, and then you drink it as a tonic before you sleep. Works pretty well.
What happens if you eat too much nutmeg?
Yeah, too much
Doesn't taste good, or do you get?
body. Yeah, it can be a hallucinogenic.
Oh God,
You
okay.
just want to grate a little bit. You're not going to do a tablespoon, okay? And we've demonstrated other spices that are like that too. Too much versus in moderation is not good in most anything in our lives, right? But this is one that you just want to be a little bit more, I don't want to say careful of, Carol, a little bit more caring about. Again, you saw what I did was just a little grating. It comes out very finely. Microwave, this microplane is really simple little gadget. And these 2 seeds of nutmegs can last you for years, really, because you don't take very much out when you grate it. Just a little bit comes out. It's very pretty inside, actually. Some people use nutmeg oil. Maybe you've heard about that. It's a Chinese preparation for a person when, let's say you have throat issues or nasal congestion. They put a little bit of nutmeg oil under the nose, right? Or on the chest, just a little. It, again, is very strong, but it's very effective. So this is one of those just a dabble do you kind of spices.
Where would you get that?
Nutmeg oil in Chinatown, in Chinese markets. Whole nutmeg, Spice House, as I mentioned. Grated nutmeg, Whole Foods, Jewel, Trader Joe's. Many people do the grated because they just don't necessarily want to keep the whole, but there's always a difference in taste when you grind it yourself, when you grate it yourself. How many times have I told you, even with spices you're going to use, heat them up first, right? Just do a little bit of a dry heat, 30 seconds, bring up the smell, and then grind it. Even like peppercorns to do like that, right? Even a little bit of basil, right? So many spices. Think about herbs that way. Think about garlic, just to heat it up for a minute. So yeah, anytime you can use fresh, you just get better potency for your body and you get a nicer taste for you.
Hey, Sharon, I've noticed that in a lot of Greek restaurants, they use nutmeg on vegetables like green beans.
Yep. Yeah, as I mentioned, sweet potatoes is a great one. Brussels sprouts with nutmeg is excellent. And yeah, it's just a dusting, Pam. Just a little bit of a grating, adds a little bit of a peppery taste, but it's got a little bit of a sweet taste too. It's unusual. I will later talk about sumac. That's another one of these kinds of spices that is a little bit sweet, a little bit peppery. It's very different for the taste bud. So yeah, nutmeg can really enliven a pretty simple dish like just green beans, right?
Sharon, that microplaner, is that what you call that device?
Yes. Microplane.
Microplane. What other spices do you often use that for to get just a small amount?
You know what? It's interesting that you say that, Laura, because it really works best for this because of this, the size and the scope and the form of nutmeg. I only really use this for nutmeg.
Okay.
This is one of those tools that's kind of for one thing. You can use a smaller grater.
Yeah.
Like a little spice grater, but it's going to be harder on your hands because this is kind of picky to use. So you could scrape your fingers. But it's also not as fine. This microplane, hence the word, right, is very, very fine, very tiny. So I really only use it for nutmeg. And thank you for saying that, because usually I try to recommend appliances you can use for many things, right?
Yeah.
This is not one of those.
We appreciate your honesty, Sharon.
Absolutely. Thankfully, it doesn't take a lot of space in your drawer or in your container, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and you never know with our individual creativity how we might find another use for that. That's a.
And when you know that, and when you find that out, Laura, please let us all know. I'll be very curious about that.
Well, does it weigh much?
No, it's
okay.
very strong but very light. This part is the important part to hold, right? This is not flexible, all right, but it is curved. It's curvilinear in shape. It's just a really wonderful tool because of little serrations. You don't. It's not like knives. You don't sharpen it.
Yeah.
It'll last forever. I've had this for 20 years. I mean, really, it will last you, and you're not going to use it all the time, right? Unless you like nutmeg every single day. But no, I've never had to fine tune it in any way, and I don't think it would work anyway to do that, right?
Right. Wow.
Could you repeat that recipe for the drink before going to bed that helps a person?
Sure. So it's an Ayurvedic preparation, and I think it's in our last year's demonstrations on chai. So I'll have Sarah send that out again. It's basically a milk, let's say almond milk or cow's milk is fine, depending on how much you want to drink. I only do like a half a cup because that's just me. But let's say you would do a cup and you would heat that up with a touch of honey if you like it a little bit sweet, a few peppercorns. I'm going to say 3 or 4 peppercorns, a grating of nutmeg, and a couple slices, thin slices of ginger. Heat it all up, strain it if you like, but I actually eat the ginger and I eat the peppercorn. That's just me.
Oh, really?
All right, because I like the taste of whole spices and it's more medicinal for the body. Yeah. Heat it up until it's just boiling, Pam. So just lightly foaming. Pour it into a cup, drink it, and go to sleep.
Wow.
Good. Okay.
All right.
Yeah, it's old Ayurvedic tonic.
Wow. Thank you.
Really simple.
And this is chai, like you get in a box of liquid chai?
No, it is not. The chai that I have demonstrated before and what you'll find in a box has tea in it as well. So this is just a milk type of product, Terry, that would help you sleep at night. If you really want more of a true chai, then you would add cloves in it and cinnamon and tea leaves, black tea leaves.
Well, I wouldn't want the caffeine.
Correct. So that's why this does not have tea in it. So the preparation I just mentioned to help you sleep is milk, peppercorns, ginger, maybe a little honey if you like it a bit sweet. All right. and then a grating of nutmeg. And that'll do you. That's enough.
Okay. I wanted to
Next week,
just,
if you like it, we will do pepper. Pam kindly demonstrated oregano a few weeks ago, but we wanted to go back in time a little bit for nigella and nutmeg for this time.
should we talk about today's service a little bit?
Yes, please.
I've got to sign off. Have a good week, everyone.
Okay.
Oh, thanks. Great to see you, Pam.
Ciao.
Bye.
So,
So, I found it interesting, and what really resonated with me was the idea of being a leader, even though you may not see yourself as one. And because I don't think of myself as a leader, and generally I'm a follower in the traditional ways, and I like that. Except I like my independent thinking. I'm not just going to follow you. But it was good for me to hear, again, a non-traditional kind of definition of what a leader is. And that by your example, whether you're a leader or not, if your title is a leader or you're, broadly received as a leader, that you can serve a leadership role. And I guess part of what Christina said was that as a leader, do you collaborate? Do you listen to others? And I think even in those individual communications you have, in whatever your task you're doing or whatever engagement you're in, that those are opportunities to show leadership. If it's, hey, well, what do you think this is a way of doing it? I thought about this, but what do you think? And, as a way of empowering others too. So that really resonated with me. How did certain messages from the service resonate with others as well?
Well, for me, it was really interesting. I had wanted to clean the church yesterday while my daughter, Sarah, needed to do a pop-up in Bridgeport, way on the south side. So she needed to do the full day. I had her kids for the day. And I realized that what Christina said was so important, because we had a bit of an altercation when she came back in the evening. And I realized, whoa, Sharon, as her mom, step back, right?
Mhm.
Value what she's trying to do and how she's trying to balance everything. And what Christina reminded me of is I need to call her and I need to follow up with that in honoring who she is in trying to collaborate with so many elements to start this new business, right? Versus be egoistic in where I was sitting, which isn't even really the truth. And what Christina was talking about was the truth, right? The collaboration is the truth. All boats rise when we work together.
Right.
So it really hit home to me, Laura, and everybody, like, how can I really express that to her? Like, how can I better collaborate with you? Right. And then life is just bigger. Life is just better. Then we honor that legacy. Then we honor our own leadership, as you were saying. So yeah, it was a very personal timing where you go, wow, at least I did. Aha. Right. And maybe look at things really differently with my daughter.
Yeah.
I think women naturally collaborate.
We do.
Yeah, I think it's almost part of us. Or maybe it is probably cultural also, that's how we're raised. But
Well, for many of us, not all of us, we also raise other human beings, some from our own bodies and others for other people's children, or, in that kind of maternal way or auntie way, or, whatever it is. It's, nature and nurture for most of our lives. And the world needs that energy. I thought it was really interesting when she was talking about our book club, which really has gone from strength to strength. It's got that flexibility of people kind of going, I miss reading a book. People suggestion a book, and then, you get busy and you don't read a book. There have been many times, everybody, where people don't even read the book, but or they haven't finished it, right? Or they haven't even started it, they've gotten busy, but they want to be part of the conversation anyway. right? I thought, wow, that's kind of cool, right? And it's that exact same thing, Carol. It's the collaborative energy of women just discussing those issues naturally.
That book that Agnes is holding up, isn't she the one who is in charge of all these spies, female spies in World War II?
Yes.
I forget her name, but
Sonia Perel, is that it?
Yes.
Is
Yeah.
the writer?
Purnell.
Purnell, thank you, Agnes.
I was going to mention that you can get the book at the library. Mine is from the library, and it's very interesting. I'm not really far in it, maybe 50, 60 pages, but it's very historical, very accurate, and it's a big eye-opener for me. I mean, I've already known from other books and movies, even like the movie about the Titanic, about how women were so just discriminated against and not empowered at all. I mean, it was either your choice was to get married and have a family, and you had no sense of your own identity or your own power. And it's just amazing stories. I mean, it's true. And it's just a lot of insight into who we are as humans. And yeah, it's about collaboration in here too, and about trusting your intuition, because her life was on the line quite a bit.
Yeah, and she wasn't planning to be a hero, everybody. I think it's interesting that her story was lost to history, right? I think that's what Agnes is intimating, that so many women's stories were lost. This woman in the 1940s who basically saved us from a calamitous world war, right? I mean, just like she helped resolve the World War II issues. But nobody knew about it. I mean, it's a very new book. It's been what, 80 years, and now it comes to light. It made me think, and I think, Laura, that's where you're talking about with collaboration and such, how many stories have been lost to histories, right? And what legacy do we each leave behind? How do we change the world within our own sphere, whatever that is? You know, Terry, you're very involved in a big collaborative project over many years now. What's the legacy you leave from that? Like, what are you creating it for, and how are you working with people? We all can do a lot. You know, that's what I took from Christina. We can each do a lot. What is it? We just choose.
I have a question for Terry. I mean, were you raised to be collaborative?
I would say not raised to be, but it came naturally to me.
Oh,
my parents were welcoming. I was sort of like our house was kind of like the hangout spot for my, teenage friends and I. My parents made it clear anybody could drop in anytime, whether I was there or not. And so I guess that became sort of a collaborative role for me, at least a unifying role among people. And but I tend to like to guide people. I like to manage people. One of my attorneys told me yesterday that he doesn't know anybody who's better at herding cats than I am.
Speaking of, here's an example. Okay. All right.
I think that our experiences teach us more about collaboration than anything. It's something that we all learn, like everything else in life, that it's a process of learning and growing. It's never something that's a given.
well, here in Florida, I'm surrounded by Cubanos. And, it seems like the machismo is so much part of the culture. Not with everyone, but certainly the older men, it's very.
And how do you react to that, Carol? I'm curious what you think about all of that. Like, you see all these people around you, which is very different from the way you live in Chicago and when you're in Colorado. So what's that all about for you?
I don't know. I mean, it seems like it seems very Cuban and not American. I don't know. It just seems like a Cuban friend of mine said that some of them, especially the older people, they never really left Cuba. You know, it's everything is pretty much Cuban, you know. I mean, they see this as a little colony of Cuba. And so I don't know, that's just.
But my point
I
is
mean,
like,
I don't know. I don't think you could really dominate a really irate Cuban woman. you know, they're very forceful when they want to be. But anyway, I don't know. I just live and let live. I mean,
well, yes, thank you. That answers my question. Like, you know, do you just kind of walk away from it? Do you go, okay, that's them, but not me? Do you try to work within that system anyway? You know, there's lots of ways to react to that kind of wall in a way.
It's not something they would do toward me. It's more, you know, toward the wife, or, you know,
Yeah.
I am the boss.
No, I get that. A lot of my career before Asia was Middle East, right? I married an Arab Frenchman, and it was very much that way, my way or the highway, right? And I saw that more and more, and yeah, eventually I just really bristled against it, you know.
Well, you're an American. You weren't.
Yeah, and I was back in America. So things.
Well, you know, I mean, when you think of it, when I was young, and I never really felt oppressed that way, but you know, you couldn't get your own credit card. You had to ask your husband to, you know, there were things that should have annoyed me, but I mean, I was too much part of the system, I guess. That's the way it was. And
well, that's a good point. Here's my analogy, right? It's kind of like a frog being boiled, right? If you put a frog into hot water, he's going to like yelp and jump out. But when you're being boiled really slowly, you don't know. And then eventually you realize you've lost all your rights, you know, and you're being boiled. So yeah, little bit by little bit, as I said, it's part of the system. You kind of get involved in the system. It was a real awakening for me to be back in America and realize, wow, I had just lost a lot of my rights overseas. Like I've kind of forgotten that I had them, right? And I'm a educated woman, and I would have thought, and professional woman, I thought I would have known that. But I realized that bit by bit by bit, it was eroding me just down the hill, right? So
that's really
I need to go.
interesting to hear, Sharon.
So.
Bye,
okay,
Terry. So great to talk to you. Thank you for joining us. Bye. So speaking of being an American, I was just going to say that Virginia Hall in the book for the book club, the fact that she is American gives her, I mean, I'm about as far as you are, Agnes, in the book. And it gives her a little bit of leeway and flexibility. So it just brings out how many facets there are to one's identity, one's national identity.
So much stuff. It's not a black and white issue at all, right?
No.
And we each make our own way. She made her own way. She made it work.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. All right, I'm going to head up now. Thank you, everyone. Thanks so much, especially again, Sharon. I love all the learning I get from you. Man, oh, man.
For saying that.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I hope you're feeling better too.
You
are, Ben? Okay, great. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.